Alright, welcome to the working title, CJ4 mods we've got going on. Been working on this for a little while. We're just going to push this release now and show you what we've got going on. So to start off, we have we've changed the V speeds, or at least we've kind of updated them. We now have approach and ref speeds that you can set in the, or that will show up on the speed tape, but you can also set them as well if you go to the PFD menu and then go down to the refs menu, or you can click the refs menu right here. You'll see that the speeds are there and you can set them themselves. If they're blue, that means that they were set by you. If they're magenta, that means they were sent by the FMS, which you can do that. We will show you shortly. Next, we've got it's updated the bottom here of the bottom of the MFD with ground speed, true air speed, ram air temperature, static air temperature, and standard deviation, which is supposed to be the correct thing here. We've also got rid of the annoying cabin altitude alert, or cabin altitude for pressurization, because it doesn't work right now, and also the pitot heat is that message as well. We kind of get rid of it because they need work and they're just annoying. And also the landing gear warning system was changed, so now it works properly. So if you have both engines running, you bring the throttles back and you have flaps beyond 15, you'll get the gear warning, so it should be much less annoying now. Next we'll go to the FMS, which is where most of the work has been done, and I will show you something that was needed. You can go ahead and see that the buttons work now, as well as the up here. So it's dark out, you can turn these lights on, so it's something nice to have. Alright, so the FMS, we're going to boot up into the status page here. It's going to give you your current date and then the active database, which these don't really mean much right now. It's just kind of filler information, but it's cool to look at. Next, we'll go to the positive page. Now we're sitting on the ground at Boston. You could put that in there if you want. However, normally you would set this to the GNSS position and you'd be good to go. Now we'll go to the flight plan page. Sitting on the ground at Boston, we're going to Philly, and this gives you a straight line distance to the airport. For example, if we put in Orlando, it's going to give us 975. So let's go ahead and put Philly back in there. And then also it shows us our first fix on our flight plan, which is this is where it's supposed to be. So our first fix is SOX on the SOX 5 departure. And if we go to next, it's going to show us the rest of the route with airways and all that on the flight, or the route page, I should say. This isn't quite correct right now. It should only show you where you enter and exit an airway and not every single fix. This is more of like a legs page, but that will be adjusted, just not quite yet. So after the flight plan page, we can go to the depart arrive page, click departures. We've got our runway selected already because we've booted it up from the Asobo flight plan page. But this is where you would select it. And we'll go to arrive. We've got ILS 27 right off at Enzu, and we're coming in on the GIMS 3. Now, we also have this other feature as well. There's an execute button actually works, and so in this instance, we want to pick the ILS 27 right. You pick it, you select it, this little button will pop up. You can also cancel the modification right here, so it's going to kind of get rid of everything you just had going on. So let's go back into it again. I'll just show you. We'll pick the ILS 27 right. It's off at Enzu, and we'll go ahead and execute. Now that's set up in there, and that's good to go. Next, we'll go to the perf menu and perf init. This shows us our basic operating weight, and we're going to load up with 5 packs. We've got 150 pounds of bags, and it's sensing our fuel, 4232, which is exactly spot on. And it gives us a gross weight of about 15,600 pounds, and we're cruising at flight level 280. So next we're going to go to the takeoff page. It's going to populate in the runway here and the length. There's no slope right now. The game doesn't recognize runway slopes per se. The elevations are all the same. So let's go ahead and throw in the winds. I don't know, let's just say it's 250 at 17. We're going to throw it in. It's going to give us our headwind and crosswind components. So 10 knot headwind, right crosswind of 13 knots. Outside air temperature, you can look up here on the SAT, which is 10 degrees. Go ahead and throw that in. And the altimeter, I think it's pretty high today, 30, 35. So throw that in. It's going to give us our pressure altitude. the runway is going to be dry. You could click on that and change to wet runway. It will adjust your numbers a little bit. However, we're going to run it dry right now. You click next. It's going to give us our V speeds, which are calculated, and our takeoff field length, which is 2,065 feet, which is not the ground roll. It's actually the distance to take off and climb to 35 feet above the runway. So it's going to be a little bit longer than your ground roll. However, the distance and the V speeds are all calculated based off of weight, temperature, elevation, pressure, temperature. Yeah, I think I said that twice, but so it's pretty accurate. You can also change it based on anti-ice. You can see it going up just a little bit because it's going to take some pressure off the bleed air system. And also, if you wanted to run flap 0 or 15, which are the only two authorized takeoff flap settings, you're pretty much going to run 15 all the time. 0 is when you're hot and heavy and high. But we'll just run 15, and we can go ahead and click send. Now that's going to send our V speeds up to the PFD, and you can see that they're now magenta, meaning that the numbers have come from the FMS. So those are good to go there. The next page here, just kind of complicated, but just a little separate page. Not really going to do much with that one. Pretty much the aircraft is now good to go to take off. That's pretty much how simple it is to use the thing, but we're just going to show you a little bit more of the menus here. Alright, so VNAV setup. These will be adjustable later on in the future, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that are in there. Whoops. The fuel management page. This is working right now. It gives your fuel flow, and you can set reserve pounds. So let's say you want to go to 400 pounds. It's going to drop or change our time to reserve, which is basically just your total fuel quantity divided by your fuel flow. Gives you, and subtracted by the reserve number, will give you your time to reserve. And if we were moving with a ground speed, it'll tell you the range to your reserve, and also your specific range, or how many nautical miles you'll travel per pound of fuel burned. Go to the next page. It's the engine fuel management page. We don't have the fuel used thing working here, but as you can see, everything else works. So, and then page 3, perf trip. Haven't really completed this one yet, so we'll get to it. Flight log it's there, but we haven't really worked on it yet. Coming shortly. And the approach page. This is where you will throw in the approach information. Well, actually, I'll do this one in flight. We'll catch you up in a little bit for that one. Go back to the index page. The data link menu. This doesn't work right now. I've got it in there. We're definitely going to come back to this. We talked about, let's see, MCD menu. So, not much to really do here, but just kind of realistic. FMS 1 just kind of takes you back there. This data link is actually bugged right now. I think it goes to a defaults page. Yeah, we'll fix that. And database update, not a thing really in the sim. And GPS 1 position just takes you to this, where the page does update. If you were in flying, it'll give your position and all that. We talked about the status page in the beginning. The positive page, VOR DME control. Not working right now, but will. GNSS control. Talked about that as well, or it's enabled. You can't really disable it right now. We'll possibly do that in the future. And then also, again, you can see the position of it. GNS position, we just saw that. Frequency is under construction. This is where you could find the frequencies for airports in the database, so we just haven't quite gotten that yet. Need some more documentation on that, to be honest. Fixed page doesn't work yet. Same thing, we'll get that spun up. Hold page doesn't work yet. Anything with the flight plan system, like the legs page, is very complex right now, and there's not a lot of documentation on it. So we're working very slowly on that. The progress page, however, it does work. So this will show you your distance and time to the routes on your flight plan. So 2 miles away, D0, whatever that fix even is. Once we start moving, you'll see that this will adjust and give you your time to each leg and all that. Secondary flight plan page, not in yet. Might do it. I don't know. It's just if it's even really a simulator kind of thing, but we'll take a look at it. FMS control. This is where you would synchronize and the two FMSs. Right now, the game doesn't really recognize. You see how they're both exactly the same. The game doesn't really recognize that they're different yet. we're definitely going to look into that because that would be nice, because normally the pilot flying would have the legs page up, and then the other screen would be the tune page. Oops. So you could type it in real quick, but we'll take a look at that. The about page, just kind of the mod thing here. Route menu, nothing in there yet. We'll get to it. Database, actually this does have information, so if I typed in Boston, put it in there, and then clicked it, it's going to give us some basic information, the longest runway. That feet is obviously not correct. The name and the elevation of the airport. Not everything else is working yet, as far as localizers and all that stuff, because it don't really know how to access the in-game database for all the airports and all that, and extract all the data we need yet. So we'll look at that as well. DB disk ops, not a thing. That's how you would update the FMS defaults. This will be changed as well. Not working right now, but this is where you can set all these values, and then they will, every time you boot up the airplane, these values will be in there. So if you wanted to climb at a certain speed or always cruise, something like that. So that'll be done in the future as well. And arrival data, this actually does work. So this is showing us Philly Airport. Since we have the ILS 27 right approach loaded in there, it's going to give us the approach frequency, the glide slope angle, the true course for the localizer, which if it was magnetic that'd be a lot more handy, but whatever. And then the runway threshold, altitude, and MSL. And then finally temperature compensation, not in the game yet, or we don't have it in there yet, and we'll take a look at that possibly in the future. Alright, so we looked at the perf menu. Display menu, this is where you would have fixes on the map page. Actually, I can show you right now. If you were to go to lower menu and map symbols, this is, you would adjust them here. You could turn them on and off here, and they that would be these things here as well. So that will be done in the future, and there's a lot more here, as you can see, like range, altitude select, and lower amp position. So that will be in the future. MFD Advance is where you could, on this page right here, if you click, and you could cycle through your waypoints and also center on a specific waypoint. For example, I wanted to center it on TJ. I would type TJ in here, and I would center the screen right over TJ. So that will be done in the future. The tune page is set up. It's pretty good. It's exactly how it's supposed to be. And if you haven't noticed, we also made a custom font for the Proline 21. We used references of real pictures and made the font, and the colors are correct, so it's pretty close to the real thing, and it looks really nice. Alright, so we're in cruise, 28,000 feet. I'm going to go ahead and show you the progress page. So it shows us Sardi as our next fix, or our current fix. I'll be there in 2 minutes, it's 13 miles away. And then Dunny, 4 minutes, 29 miles. And then a Philly, 44 miles, and distance 300. I'm not sure that's correct. There might be an error there. And then if we go to the next page, it's going to show us our headwind component and crossing components. So 6 knots, not too shabby. Could be worse. And it gives us the readout as well of the winds, and then our static air temperature and ISO deviation and all that good stuff. If we go to the, perf and then fuel management page, this will show us our time to reserve. You see it's an hour 23 minutes, and we can go about 560 miles at this ground speed and at this fuel burn rate, which gives us a specific range of 0.23 nautical miles per pound of fuel burned. So not too shabby. Alright, now let's go ahead and figure out what our approach numbers are going to be. So you click approach, it's going to give us the 27 right runway that we loaded in there. Let's go ahead and say that the winds are 270 at 15, straight down the pipe. It's going to give us our headwind and crossing components as well. Our outside air temperature, it's about 15 on the ground. And we'll just go ahead and throw 30.36 in as for the altimeter. And we'll go ahead and run wet numbers. Go ahead and hit next. Now right now we have it set that it's pulling the numbers based off the gross weight and not the landing weight. That's going to get fixed, but it's a little more complicated than that. But right now, it's going to give us our rest speeds 112 and approach 119 and a landing field length of 3,185 feet. The anti-ice doesn't work right now, neither do the landing factor numbers. This is what you would use if you could click this, and let's say you wanted it to be 1.67. Let's say you had like a flaps fail and you're landing flaps 0. You might have to multiply your landing distance numbers by 1.92 or something like that, depending upon the condition. But those aren't in right now, but you can also go ahead and send those V-speed numbers, and they would show up as little bugs on the airspeed tape in magenta. And the other thing you can do is you can go directly to a initial approach fix, or a fix on an approach, and it will sequence you properly and get rid of all the junk. So let's go ahead and show that. So we're going to, let's go to direct. Let's scroll down until we see, that's the arrival. Let's go to Enzu, that's the initial approach fix for the runway. Let's go ahead and direct to. It's working, it's thinking. Alright, so there we go. It's going directly to Enzu right now, and this will activate the approach. Let's see, if we go to index arrival data 108.95, if you go to tune page, it's already auto-tuned the frequency for the localizer. So once we get a little bit closer, it will auto-tune, and we can follow the approach guidance down. So that's definitely a great feature, and that's pretty much about it. Thank you.